Hello, and welcome to the SSPI podcast by Space and Satellite Professionals International. I'm Tamara Bond-Williams, Executive Director of SSPI. Today's episode, Securing the Spectrum, GovSat and the Architecture of Trusted Connectivity, is part of our series with ST Engineering iDirect, exploring Europe's vertical markets and the technologies reshaping them, from commercial mobility to defense and disaster response and beyond. In our last conversation, we looked at the maritime frontier with Media Mobile and the race toward multi-orbit mobility. Today, we turn to the sovereign side of connectivity, where communications become a matter of national security, operational assurance, and trust. Our guest is Josef Nemec, Technical Director at GovSat, a public-private joint venture between the government of Luxembourg and SES. GovSat's mission is to deliver secure, reliable, and accessible satellite communications for governmental and institutional users. The company operates the GovSat-1 satellite, featuring X-band and military Ka-band capacity, anti-jamming features, and assured frequency, supporting missions from Europe to Africa and the Middle East. Josef joined GovSat in 2022 after a career spanning the German Air Force, Luxair, and NATO's AWACS program at the NATO Support and Procurement Agency. He brings a rare perspective that bridges defense, civil aviation, and commercial innovation. Welcome to the podcast, Josef.
Hello, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much for being here. Listen, before I jump in, how did I do? Did I get that introduction right? Was there anything you'd like to correct before I go forward?
Oh, wow. I mean, you did really your homework. So no problem at all. I think there is nothing to add.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, I want to start with just a little bit more about you. So as we mentioned in the intro, you've served in the military, you've worked in commercial aviation, and now you're the technical lead at a big government satellite operator. How did those experiences shape how you think about reliability and mission assurance in satellite systems?
Yeah, indeed. So it's not a straightforward satellite communications career. This is absolutely correct. So I became the technical director via a couple of deviations. So I mentioned it was not so straightforward. And the time during my military, it was very interesting because it learned me a couple of things, and this is that situational awareness is extremely important. So when I was technical officer in the German Air Force, I was responsible for mainly mission fighter jets. It was the Tornado fighter bomber aircraft, and later on the Typhoon or the Eurofighter 2000. And I was responsible for a lot of critical mission subsystems like flight controls or communication, of course, communication, and also the radar system. And as I told you, this taught me that situational awareness of the space around you is super important for mission success. And at the end of the day, back in the days, of course, also for the crew safety. And I think one of these elements, the situational awareness, is also applicable to my current job role, which is based on spectrum, military frequencies. So we do a lot of effort. We spend a lot of effort to gain this situational awareness and also to share this situational awareness with our customers. So I think that's one element. And you also mentioned the reliability of the service. So fighter jets and then later on commercial aviation also gave me good understanding that from a reliability point of view, there is not really a big difference to the job that I'm doing today, because a compromise in reliability, it's just not an option. This is, I think, from the service point of view, but also from a hardware point of view. So I think for satellite, and I'm not pretending to be a specialist in all the details of satellite manufacturing, but literally you have only one shot to get it right. And the shot is also literally. So this is something that needs to go up to space. And the spacecraft, at least on the GEO side, has a lifetime of approximately 15 years. Sometimes you can even go beyond that, depending on the health of the spacecraft and the remaining fuel. But if in comparison to my previous jobs, it's even more important, the reliability aspect, because if there's a sensor on a plane that doesn't work, usually you have several of those. So if one doesn't work, it's okay. You can replace it at the next maintenance event, for example. But this is not possible when you go forward and launch a spacecraft. And I think the last point in your question was about mission assurance.
Mm-hmm.
So what is important to us, and what also came from my previous job experience, is really the focus on operations, on operational excellence, and on delivering quality. Because we have, of course, procedures, we have process that we follow. We are an ISO certified company, and for me, quality delivery, it's not something that happens by coincidence, not at all. Quality is something that really shows that your company is reproducing success at a certain pace. And when it comes to operations and mission assurance, one of the elements that we extremely focus on is that when we deploy a mission kit, when we deploy elements to our customers, like different services or hardware, we make sure that it works. We make sure that, for example, the ACU has all the satellites loaded into it. We make sure that the modem is preset. We make sure that the link performs as it's supposed to be. And this is what our customers expect, because the expectations are extremely high. And we also know that we are operating in a niche market. And when there's high expectations in a niche market, so not delivering is definitely not an option. So it has not been an option during working on combat technology. It was not an option in commercial aviation. And now, of course, in the SATCOM world, you see all the parallels that I just mentioned. So it's also not an option here.
Very interesting. Listen, I wanted to go back to where you started in this segment about situational awareness. Obviously, that's a really big buzzword in the industry right now, but I wonder what that means when you think about spectrum. How do you think about situational awareness? Because the way we've been talking about it in a lot of different segments has to do with what's about to hit the satellite, right? Where is this satellite in relationship to this other one? And is there debris in the range? You know, this has been a lot of the discussion of situational awareness, but you're talking about spectrum. So what are you thinking about when you think about space about situational awareness when you're thinking about spectrum?
Right. What you mentioned are situational awareness services that we also get as a company, like for example, debris, or if there's a close approach or something like this, space weather. All this is services that we also use. But when I talk about situational awareness, this is an information that we produce. Because, of course, our job is to communicate data packets from point A to point B at the end of the day. So for us, situational awareness is not a product that we buy or that we consume. It's something that we deliver also to our customers. And this is in regard to the spectrum. We have a lot of effort. We invest a lot of effort into the monitoring capabilities that we have. So we see if there are carriers that are supposed to be there, and we also detect if carriers appear on the spectrum who are not supposed to be there. And that's why how we detect that there's, for example, interference or someone who doesn't want us to communicate. And this is a piece of information, a piece of intelligence, or something that we give to our customers that is even going one step further and analyzing what this is, or what source this is, or from where this is coming from. So we deliver geolocation information and enrich this with the first level of actionable intelligence. So this is what I think it's important, because we want not to only deliver the communication as a service, but also to provide the situational awareness around it. And as we deal with military customers, this is something that gives the first actionable information to them.
Yeah. Yeah. So, speaking of that, you were formed as a partnership. GovSat was formed as a partnership between the Luxembourg government and SES, which is, at the time that was a very unusual model for a company to be formed under. And it was a big deal. I remember when GovSat was formed. Is this situational awareness part of the problem that partnership was intended to solve, or what else was the intention here?
Well, I think the intention when GovSat was founded was first and foremost to follow the Luxembourgish space strategy. So, meaning that Luxembourg invests quite heavily into space and execute and follow their space strategy. And one element is, of course, also the geo capability, something that we deliver. And we have quite recently, in February this year, we have celebrated our 10-year anniversary. So this is something that made us extremely proud, because at the very beginning, we started with no satellite. We started with no offices. So we were really starting in a containerized, improvised office environment. So also something that maybe not everyone knows. But from these early days, we have really grown into a service provider of military communication in Luxembourg, and also beyond the borders. And I think that one of the founding elements is that you invest into a military capability, and you also get a return on investment into your own country. So, of course, we pay our taxes in Luxembourg. We create jobs here in Luxembourg, and through the services that, of course, go beyond the borders of Luxembourg, we help to execute the space strategy. So the investing into defense can have many ways. You can, of course, purchase tanks and weapon or air defense systems, but you can also invest into the strategy that your country is about to follow, which is space. And I think this was also one of the founding elements of founding GovSat.
You are listening to The Better Satellite World, the longest-running continuous podcast in the commercial space and satellite industry. The Better Satellite World podcast is funded by the corporate partners of SSPI, Hughes, Access Intelligence, the American Space Exploration Fund, and Qvia. Have you heard about SBQ? Space Business Qualified is a popular online learning program for industry professionals designed by JSOA, SSPI, and SatProf. To learn more, visit spacebq.org. And now back to the Better Satellite World.
Yeah. First of all, congratulations. That's a huge milestone to 10 years. And also I have to say it's a testament of the success of GovSat that people would not know or even think that that you started out so small. Because it was such a big deal when it was announced, and you've had this success over the years. And then I wanted to pivot a little bit and talk a little bit about Luxembourg, specifically the country, because it's a small and yet strategically positioned nation. It sits between larger powers. And of course, what I was curious about, particularly because you have a background in NATO, but also with your role in GovSat, how does being situated in Luxembourg specifically influence, and having GovSat, how does that influence the role of having a secure satellite hub for Europe and NATO allies?
Well, we in Luxembourg, we sit really in the center of Europe. So many European institutions are based here. We have the NATO headquarters in Mons, it's just around the corner. Brussels is just around the corner. We have the NATO-supported procurement agency also in Luxembourg. So being in Luxembourg quite well connects you already to the space infrastructure, and also to the to the military domain. And as you rightly mentioned, for such a small nation, like a geographically small nation, Luxembourg is punching well above its weight. So for GovSat, as you also mentioned previously, we are a 50-50 public-private joint venture between SES and the Luxembourg government. And we are fulfilling a bit our motto to become the satellite operator of choice here for military applications and for government use. So in Luxembourg, we really have the benefits of both worlds. So 50% of the government, which brings us very close into the political landscape, into the defense landscape that is all around us. Just in a circle of 100 kilometers, you have almost all the important NATO bases around, and of course with SES, where we have the vast experience of decades of space industry, of launching satellite, of operating satellites, and doing satellite procurement, for example. So this is something where we are very nicely situated in the sweet spot of Luxembourg with this 50-50 joint venture. So it's the both shareholders that contribute to our success, and I think we also do a good job. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here for 10 years, right?
That's right. That's actually right. Yeah, I actually have a question. This is not in your list of questions, but it just occurred to me. You were talking about that you serve government and military. What other functions of government are you supporting? And is it just for Luxembourg, or is it for wider Europe that you're supporting other government functions other than just defense?
Other government functions. Well, the usage of our frequencies, I say, implies that the end user must be a governmental entity. So it can be the European Union, it can be United Nations, it can be a government, it can be military, it can be also the blue forces like police or firefighters. So it's but it's always in the governmental ecosystem. So this is where we can actually supply our service. So I think it's really a unique niche position that our customers, they are always coming from a governmental entity.
Yeah. I had not thought of it until you were just talking about it. I said, yeah, that's actually a reasonable question to ask. Well, so thank you. So, of course, as you were mentioning, Luxembourg sits in this very strategic place for Europe. And we're talking, the big buzzword, of course, right now is European sovereignty. Obviously, the European Union is putting forth funds to support sovereign capabilities in Europe. But I'm wondering, especially with your positioning kind of in the center of the universe, as it were, are you seeing that these efforts are collaborative? Are you having opportunities for joint procurement and shared infrastructure? Or is this, as I think these tend to be, is this more of a competitive and nationalistic effort, this idea of sovereignty in Europe? And what does that actually mean for GovSat, if I can ask that?
Right. So maybe let's start with the definition of sovereignty. So for us, sovereignty is, or sovereign capability is, if it's now your own that you own, or even if you buy a sovereign capability like a service on GovSat 1, it should always feel like as if the asset and the service was your own. So I think this is an important fact that also goes down to our mindset. So we serve every customer in the same way, in the same quality as we discussed earlier. Otherwise, it's really a tough question, because when you're dealing with defense customers, and defense customers tend to deploy somewhere, they are forward operating bases, and you very often go, when it comes to location and what exactly are you doing at these locations, you easily go into a classified domain. So collaborative frameworks like ours, they work on a trust basis, and trust takes time to develop, because you as a customer, you would before you go and put all your eggs into one basket or just buy something, you want to observe a certain behavior of a company or of a service, And then you can only predict what will most probably happen in the future. And will it be trustworthy? Will there be integrity? And is this something that you then trust and use it for your really critical and essential military communication, where you most probably share your location, you most probably share what you are doing at this location, because this is one of the elements that you need to know where to deploy your service. So I think this trust is something that we have gained, and now we can talk about the collaborative frameworks, because we need to match the national priorities. And collaboration comes also from a different angle, because collaboration means that you do not need necessarily to own the asset. You do not need to own all the ground infrastructure to operate the asset. And military budgets are currently rising, but of course they are not infinite. So if you want to diversify, or if you want to cover a larger distance between your uplink infrastructure, for example, if you want to have a certain redundancy or resilience in your system, then across Europe, this collaborative thinking comes up. Because if the trust is there between partners, then you also trust to put your modems somewhere in your location. You trust the uplink infrastructure, the antennas. You trust the service. So I think it's really it's the two things that you need to have. So you need to want to be economically efficient, and you need to trust the other party that you can actually deliver the service.
I wanted to thank you, Joseph, for bringing forward that idea of that as part of a collaborative framework, you don't have to own everything, right? You can build out based on trusted relationships that allow you to collaborate on what you're going to do with an asset other than owning, having some sort of shared responsibilities. Is GovSat facilitating that? And are you having partnerships, other commercial partnerships that enable you to build out those frameworks to make that work?
So how do we now form partnerships? So I think that we have several means to form partnerships, because as in the shape and form as we are, the 50-50 public-private joint venture gives us access to many, there are many ways customers can approach us. Let's put it like this, because for the European collaborative framework under the European Defense Agency, so there is the SATCOM program arrangement, so nations can share and pool resources using this mechanism. Of course, Luxembourg and GovSat as a SATCOM provider is part of this. Then we also participate in different NATO programs where also partners come together and share the resources that are available from different nations that also do military SATCOM and have sovereign capabilities. And last not least, there is a very simple means to get access to GovSat services, which is just simple contracting. And so I think participating in the various programs that are available, this is the way how we shape and how we integrate into the collaborative ecosystem. And last not least, which came up just very recently, it's the European initiative for the GovSatcom, or the GovSatcom hub, as a pooling and sharing platform. So also here, there's a lot of effort that the European Commission put into this to give nations a way how to collaborate.
Okay. I apologize that I was not aware of that particular initiative, but it's pretty exciting, and again, it's a testament to the success of the GovSat initiative that Europe has chosen to build an initiative around the success of GovSat.
Absolutely, I cannot agree more, Tamara.
Well, I want to thank you, Joseph, for being here, for helping us to understand a little bit more about what is GovSat all about and the success of GovSat, and for how you're supporting secure, reliable communications for European and allied missions. This episode has been another in our ST Engineering iDirect European series, where we are exploring the vertical markets that are defining Europe's satellite landscape and the technologies that are shaping the future of space and satellites in Europe. So once again, Josef, thank you so very, very much for being here.
Many thanks, Tamara, and also to you, Ori, for the podcast, for the opportunity to talk about the interesting missions and stuff that we do in our daily lives. And it was really a pleasure to be here with you on the podcast. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, well, this podcast is made possible by the support of SSPI's professional, student, and corporate members. We are especially grateful for our corporate partners, Access Intelligence, producers of Via Satellite Magazine, the law firm of Clyde & Company, Hughes and EchoStar Company, Qvia, and the American Space Exploration Fund. To learn more about SSPI, visit sspi.org and follow us on X, which used to be called Twitter, at SSPI, LinkedIn, and Facebook. New episodes of the podcast, including the Better Satellite World series, the Space and Satellite Futures series, and She Reaches Women in Space, are released every Monday. Subscribe at sspi.org/SSPI-podcast or on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, also on YouTube podcasts, really wherever you get your podcasts. For Space and Satellite Professionals International and our producer, Ari Yates, I'm Tamara Bond-Williams. And for the people and companies building a space and satellite future worthy of our highest aspirations, thank you for all you do.